Okay, thank you. So my name is Simon Roper. Ambios is the title of the organisation, not-for-profit organisation from the UK, and Ambios does this. Okay, not turning back on people, nature conservation training, that's what we do. We do what it says on the tin, if you like. Can we just turn the thing off, is that okay? Just while we go on, okay, thank you. So, I have a confession to make. I find it really difficult navigating to places. It is a minor miracle that I'm here today. I get distracted whilst we're travelling places that are unfamiliar to me. And in fact, 2 nights ago, we went for a walk to see if we could see some bats here at Gurula, down towards the station. And I had a bat detector, and I was conscious, after we'd heard a few bats, that was very exciting, we'd seen some things. I looked up and I thought, I've actually no idea where I am or how to get back. And I have a bit of a reputation for this. I once organised a press conference when I was working at Devon Wildlife Trust. And while the media actually found the nature reserve, I managed not to find it, which was very, very embarrassing. So I have a bit of a reputation for not being able to navigate because I get distracted. Talking to people, noticing wildlife takes me off. So I have to really focus on remembering. So my father was a journalist. He would have said reporter many, many years ago. He worked for a London newspaper, and it was he who introduced me to wildlife. By accident, I think. We were on holiday in South Devon, and we were at a holiday cottage. And at the back of the cottage, there was a wildflower meadow with very tall grass. And it was a lovely sunny day, and at the bottom of the wildflower meadow, he noticed that there was a young fox asleep. And I must have been about 10 years old at the time. And he said, hey, why don't we see how close we can get to the fox? So we opened the door, got down really low, so the fox couldn't see us, started to walk to see how close we could get. And amazingly, we did really well. We got really close, about as close as I am to you. And I can still remember the bright sunshine on the back of the fox, and the colours, and the ears, and the eye contact, before the fox very quietly stood up, walked away. And I think that was the hook. I think from that moment, I was really into wildlife. That's my earliest memory. And I went on to study zoology at university. And part of what I did there was to volunteer to go out and follow foxes through the city as part of a research program. And whilst I was doing that, we happened to bump into badgers. Nocturnal, mealies. And that sparked my interest in badger ecology, and I became a badger researcher. Now the thing is that badgers in the UK, you may be aware, are a little controversial. They are implicated in the spread of bovine tuberculosis. So it's possible that they are actually causing some problems for farmers. Possible, not quite proven, scientifically proven. And so you either love badgers or you hate badgers. And whilst I was working with my badgers, drawing on my background, my father's background with the media, I was able to provide the local radio station with some positive stories about badgers, some interesting facts, some interesting information. And I got into visiting the radio station and giving little bits of information. So I went through my research time, Exeter University, studying badgers, wrote the thesis, came to an end, and I happened to bump into the new director of the local wildlife trust, NGO. And at the time, he was looking for somebody to handle the press, a press officer. So he said to me, why don't you come and work for us? He said, I have no money. It's true. He said, I have no money. I pay you a little bit when I can. Come and work with us. So I thought, that's great. This is my first almost a job, not quite, almost a job with nature. And I landed up working in the Wildlife Trust. And it was then, I remember, a few months later, that he came to me and he said, okay, we have a very important visit coming soon. We need to arrange a visit for His Royal Highness Prince Charles. It's coming. and all his security and all the people around him. And I want you to be looking after two very important people. And the Prince will be coming to 2 nature reserves, and your job is to take the very important people to the 2 nature reserves. Can you think? I was thinking, I have to navigate 65 kilometres. Is this going to be okay? Now, when you deal with the royal family, UK royal family, probably any royal family, you must make sure the guests arrive first. Okay? It is not allowed for the guests to be late. They can't arrive after the royal person. So, with this task set before me, he said to me, I want you to seamlessly zip the itinerary for the royal person and the itinerary for the VIPs so that it works perfectly. There are 65 kilometres between the 2 locations. He said, it's okay, the royal guy, we'll move him by helicopter, you'll be in a car. Okay, great, thank you. The first VIP person will be the director of all the wildlife trusts in the UK, very important guy. And the second guy that you'll be driving will be David Attenborough, now Sir David. So, okay, the pressure's on. So, I find the locations and I practice. I must have practiced 20, 30 times. Timing, where to turn left, where to turn right, don't get distracted, make sure you know, do the times. So, the day came, we were ready for the day. Now the full story will take longer than I have, but I remember 2 things I will share with you from the day. The first one, everything is planned to the last minute. The first thing is the train, that Sir David is coming, where I'm going to collect him in the car, is 20 minutes late. Okay. This day is not getting off to a good start. But it was okay, we made it through, and we got him to the venue, and that was fine. And the second memory I have is when we were moving the 65 kilometres, I remember driving the car up to the location, and both Sir David and the guy in the back, the chief guy of the Wildlife Trust, were watching for the helicopter. And we saw it coming behind the car. And I remember very, very distinctly arriving at the venue as the helicopter came low down over the road, ready to settle into the nature reserve. We got him there just in time. He had to join the handshake line. So luckily we made it. Amazingly stressful time. So the rest, I can tell you another time. Fantastic experience to be Sir David's driver for a day. Wonderful guy, very professional guy. So practicing the routes, really important. But my start of my message to you today is that you can be involved in wildlife conservation in many different ways. And although I was a biologist, a researcher, I landed up working with the media and working with VIPs sometimes, making sure stories were going out. And that's a really important area and contribution. So I was working for wildlife in a different way, not strictly in biological way, in a slightly different way. So, just recently, we had a conversation. I had a conversation with a colleague recently who was talking to me about some young people who were doing degrees in biology who had decided that actually it was going to be really difficult to get a job working in nature conservation. And they decided to stop doing their degrees and go and do something else. And that made me start to think about the message that we are passing out to people about working in nature conservation. And we have the task of focusing on what's going to happen to our world and species degradation, loss of species. And so we actually need everybody to be involved in nature conservation, whatever their background. And so if you imagine a high definition screen with millions of pixels, yeah? Each one of those pixels represents a species. Let's imagine that we're looking at a beautiful picture of all life on Earth, where every pixel is a different species. Right now, some of those pixels are going out, and the picture is becoming less clear. And the more we go on, the more blurred the picture becomes. So we need everybody to be involved in nature conservation. We need everybody to have a sense of the importance of environmental commitment. And so that is part of my message today. That actually, I'm not worried where you ultimately land up working. You could land up working in administration, in finance, for the guys that are involved with the council. The key thing for me is that you have an understanding about species diversity, a little understanding. And so wherever you decide to go, whatever you decide to do, if you have that environmental message, if you have that environmental understanding, then that is going to make the difference. That is going to make it work. And that's why we need to rethink in our message to everybody that everybody can land up working for wildlife, actually, everybody. Because it needs to be part of our thinking, our environmental thinking from day to day. And it's interesting, we were very lucky to have the director of Greenpeace Hungary here just 2 days ago. And she was saying, you know, Greenpeace is rethinking its ideas about the message. And maybe the message is, actually, we should tell everybody that we should all be environmentalists. This is important. It weaves into our every life. And there is a connection between those species and our day-to-day lives. And in fact, just 24 hours ago, there was an announcement that they've discovered a species that actually can process, would you believe, process plastics. There's some small little invertebrate species, I know not which one, that can actually perhaps help us with the problems we have with plastic. So we need all those pixels on the high definition screen. We need them all. And we can all be part of making sure that screen doesn't go any darker. We can all do that. So my take-home message is that together we can all make a difference. Together we can do this, absolutely. And I would encourage you to be a little curious about some of those pixels on the high definition screen. Some of those species, even if it's only 1 or 2. Be a little curious, investigate a little, find out a little bit more, and see if you can draw someone else into that discussion through the lives that you have and the people that you know. And that way we'll spread the message. And they say, you know, we're connected to everybody else in the world by about 9 other people. You only need to convince 9 other people. And they convince 9 other people. And they convince 9 other people. And then we've got it. We've done it. So, why don't you try living, learning, and working in some way or another for wildlife? Let's give it a go. All right. Thank you very much.